That was an absolute weekend ruiner. That's going to sting for a while. That's the most horrible way to lose a game. And for it to be that lunchtime kickoff on a Saturday, I don't blame anyone for not watching this video. I am going to make this video, upload it, and then I'm out of here for social media because it is going to be toxic. You know what it's like when Arsenal lose. Obviously, all of the rivals are piling in, but even within our own fan base, you're going to have the people absolutely blowing it out of proportion, going crazy, calling out players, the manager, all the rest of it. And then you're going to have the people that are kind of like, oh, why are you even annoyed? It happens, and explaining it away. And we're going to try and sit somewhere in the middle of that as we normally do. I've taken a little bit of time to kind of regain a bit of composure and sit back and think about the game. Before we get into it, if I could ask you to please subscribe if you're not already. We're on the way to 27,000 subscribers. And if you could like the video, even if you didn't like the performance, like the video, I would be grateful for that. But look, Villa was always going to be a tough place to go to. If you watched the preview yesterday, the build-up, I said a draw would not be a bad result at Villa Park. They've not lost a game there in the Premier League. They've lost one game, in the Premier League since we beat them in August last year. That was against Palace earlier this year. But they're a tough team to play against, especially at home, and we found it tough. You know, they're the most informed team in Europe for a reason right now. They set up with a very strong and structured midfield in particular, you know, effectively playing 5 central midfielders. And I didn't think we got everything right in terms of the tactical approach, and we didn't get everything right in terms of the way we delivered the performance. And of course, there are reasons, and we will talk about the injuries. Like, it's not an excuse to say, yeah, there are injuries we've got right now that are making a difference, particularly at centre back. But look, we'll bring this up and we'll kind of get into it using this. I thought in the first half, Villa had the early part of the game. Then we grew into a little bit. And actually, it was frustrating that they then scored kind of once we had grown back into the game. But the warning signs were there. The warning signs were there, particularly for Matty Cash at the back post. We had one of those already where it got to Matty Cash at the back post. Eze wasn't there, nor was Calafiori. Declan Rice made a big block. And then for the goal, unfortunately, it is a case of Eze completely losing Cash. Like, it was as simple as that. The ball comes in. Timber gets a flick on it, which isn't helpful. And again, that is, you know, if that's William Saliba, who is 6 inches taller than Timber, he probably just heads it clear. But it goes to the back post. Eze has switched off. And it's a good finish from Matty Cash, to be fair, on the volley. Keeps it low, hard. It's difficult to save. And at that point, you know, I felt we didn't deserve to be 1-0 down necessarily, but I couldn't complain that we were 1-0 down. And then we grew back into it again. Before halftime, we regained a bit of control, and I thought this is okay, but we needed to make subs at halftime. You know, I thought the lineup that we started the game with wasn't right. Mikel Merino was not stretching them enough. And when you've got a solid back four like they do, and then you've got those 5 central midfielders in front of it, and effectively what they were doing was, when we had the ball, John McGinn would drift to right mid, Rodgers would drift to left mid, Tielemans would actually push up alongside Ollie Watkins, but they'd both be sat behind the ball, and it became very difficult to break through, and that was always expected. One thing that was frustrating me was that they were willing to press. Like, they do commit bodies forward, and there were times where we'd win the ball back, and then in transition, we'd have no threat, because largely Mikel Merino wasn't there. There were a couple of times, one where Saka picked up the ball and he's running forward and there's no one with him. Another with Ødegaard carrying it through the middle of the pitch. And, you know, you want Gyökeres there. Gyökeres making that steaming run through the middle, but he's not. And then Ødegaard has to turn around. And we were doing that a lot. And it's frustrating because it felt like last year. That's what it felt like, of slowing the game down, letting them get all the men behind the ball, working it around, recycling it, and then eventually putting a cross in. That was what it felt like at times in the first half, and that was frustrating. Like I said, I thought Eze had a really tough first half, couldn't really get into it. I think with Eze, right, whether it's off the left or playing centrally, he just suits games where we have more of the ball and we can find him in pockets around the edge of their box. And he didn't get that today, and he struggled with it. And like I said, Merino. Now, the good thing is, right, and this is where some people go an absolutely berserk at Arteta today. I've got to say, he gets it right at halftime, and that is okay. Like, if a manager makes a mistake, that's one thing, but they rectify it quickly, That's what you want to see. And he did. Trossard and Gyökeres at half-time. That was the correct substitution to make. He did it early and aggressively, which we've criticised him of not doing in the past. And it worked, you know? We came out in the second half and we looked much stronger. You know, we get the goal. We deserved the goal. Captain clutch again, Leandro Trossard. Remarkable how often he's getting on the score sheet. And then there was a period after that where I thought that was where we should have tried to win the game. We had them on the ropes for that first 15 minutes of the second half. And then we started losing control a bit again. And that was frustrating because there was no real reason for it, but we weren't winning second balls in midfield. And look, you can put this down to tiredness. I do think the midfield in particular is fatigued. Declan Rice, you know, the fact that you're subbing him off in the week because he's got such bad cramp, like they are fatigued, and we weren't winning the second balls. Time and time again, we weren't winning the second balls. We lost control, and that was it. And then the game continued. We had our chances, but they certainly had theirs. You know, there was the ball that got flashed across the box, and Timber got a tiny touch on it when it crossed the line. They had Daniel Marlon dragged one wide. Like, they did have their chances. And even in the first half, I forgot to mention that Ollie Watkins big chance that he had. Like, they did have plenty of chances. And so I definitely don't think we deserved to win the game on balance. I also didn't massively think we deserved to lose the game. And I've seen a lot of people coming out after the game saying we absolutely deserve to lose that. I'm not convinced that that is actually true. But late on, we were flagging and we couldn't get a grip in the game. We couldn't get our foot on the ball. Like I said, in midfield, then there's certain decisions that I don't get. I don't understand why we didn't bring on Christian Norgard. You know, I don't really understand the purpose of Christian Norgard at this point. Didn't play a minute against Brentford. Didn't come on when we were holding on to a win against Sunderland. Couldn't come on today. Like, what's the point of him? I'm struggling to see that. If it's just to play Carabao Cup and the easy Champions League games, I don't know if that's enough, to be honest with you. And then we have that moment where Declan Rice puts in a brilliant ball. It's a great ball out to Rice from Erdegaard, I think it was. It's a brilliant ball across from Rice. And it was like Gyökeres hadn't anticipated it quickly enough. And then it comes to Madueke, and I'm not sure the shot was on. I think he should have taken a touch, tried to cut back on into his left, but he didn't. And then they go up the other end and score, and it's calamity at the back for the goal. And this is where, as good a job as I think Timber and Hincapié tried to do today, we lack composure there. We lack the composure of Saliba and Gabriel. And that fight, you know, Hincapié's recovery pace today was really useful at times. He did really well. But that moment where they play the ball into Marlon, Hincapié wins it back. He could roll it back to Raya. He could clear it out, but he doesn't. He runs it out of play for a throw-in, which means he's completely out of position. They take the quick throw-in. We're all at 6s and 7s, all over the place, frazzled, and you know, how the ball ends up falling to them and the way it goes in is just absolutely crushing. But we should have done better there. You know, we should have done better to see out the game. Like I said, a draw would not have been a bad result. And that's the frustrating thing. I'd have taken a draw. The defeat, after the effort that we put in, I just hope it doesn't have a knock-on effect. And this is what I'm more worried about, right? This result in isolation, it is what it is. It was you look at the stats. It was not a 50-50 game, but it was a close game. It was a close game. Could have gone either way. Draw might have been a fair result. Can't complain that you lose. I can take that in isolation. What I can't take is if these performances have a knock-on effect. And I am worried because the defence and midfield look knackered. Absolutely knackered. And I don't know how and when we're massively going to rotate because the defenders are all injured. Arteta confirmed after the game Mosquera is out for weeks. He said it was far worse than they had imagined it would be, far worse than Mosquera himself thought it was going to be. You've got Gabriel not coming back till late December, start of January. Like, we need Saliba back to even have any sort of rotation. I think we really do with Kai Havertz at this point as well. And I'm worried. I'm worried that, you know, we can rotate against Bruges and we can rotate against Wolves, but then it's Everton, Brighton, Villa again, Bournemouth. It's tough. It is tough. And I'm just looking at the current scores. City are currently 2-0 up as well. So the gap is going to be They've scored with Diaz and Gvardiol, for God's sake. The gap is going to be 2 points to Man City, only 3 points to Aston Villa, which is tough. It is tough, and we've got to lock in now. We have to lock in. We went 18 games unbeaten, but we have dropped 7 points in our last 3 away games. That's tough. That's not good enough. We got to bounce back, and I hope we do. I hope we do. The Club Brugge game, I couldn't really care less about. We're in the top 8 in the Champions League anyway. The Wolves game, we just have to tick that off, and then we go into that big run. And it's so... The other thing is just losing to Villa, losing to Emery. And he's like, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. And it's just a defeat to Emery is so much worse because you just get all these idiots. We should never have got rid of Emery. They go into hiding for a year and then they come back out. Yeah, it's just one of those. Just write it off, forget about it, move on, and probably log out of social media. To be honest with you, that would be my advice. Look, that's the end of the video. You probably didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. None of us enjoyed it. We will be back probably Monday with a live stream. Try and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Until then, goodbye.